Hi again, everybody. Our weekly chat with Cobb County Chairman Mike Boyce here in the Cobb TV studios. And Chairman, good morning.
Good morning. Good
And
to be back.
you wanted to, first of all, give a shout out to one of the newest members of our upper management team.
Yes, County Manager Rob Hosack received approval from the board a couple weeks ago to nominate and select Dr. Jackie McMorris as a new Deputy County Manager. She comes to the county with decades of experience. She has a doctorate. This is the kind of employees we have here that are leading the management team. And I know her hands are going to be full coming out the back because Rob has been carrying a lot of load all by himself. But I think she's going to do a great job, and I look forward to working with her and Rob Hosack to moving this county forward.
It's hard to really explain without being in this building, but the amount of work that goes on up in that office, in my first weeks on the job, it seems staggering.
You ought to be on my side of the chair. Yeah, it is. It's but again, the key to success for any team is the people that you put in the team. Train them and then turn them loose to do their job. And when I first started doing these videos, I had these props. And my biggest prop would be the agenda preparation documents or the zoning. Well, this week I'm going to highlight our lawyers. This morning I came in to do performance evaluations because I thought I had some extra time. When I walked in, I saw this stack of documents. And for the first half hour of the day today, all I've been doing is signing contracts. And these contracts cover a multitude of issues. They run from sidewalks to road construction to repaving to grants from the federal government for which we're responsible for administering, to changing vendors, to modification of contracts. And so if people want to know why we have such a large legal department, it's because every one of these documents has to be reviewed by them, page by page, because I can assure you that the vendors are also making sure they have their lawyers checking the documents, and they're not going to do one bit of extra work that isn't formalized in a contract. So this is, again, just a small sample of some of the contracts that we sign every single week. I make sure it's a priority on my day that if I see a contract on my desk that I sign as soon as possible, because that means that service is going to be provided to the county. And then last but not least, I have next week we have zoning, and this is my Sunday afternoon reading. This is probably about 250 pages of documents regarding zoning. These are prepared by the Community Development Agency as well as my executive assistants, who absolutely are essential in my life to making sure they prepare these documents so that I preserve the most precious commodity I have in my time and my work, which is called time. Can you imagine trying to do all this with just 2 or 3 people and still move a county of 750,000 people forward? So my hat's off again to people like Dr. McMorris, to the people in the legal department, the people in community development, to people in my outer office who make this wagon roll on very smoothly.
And even though you may not read every page of these documents, right, you read every page of that document because that really affects the people who live in the county.
That's correct, because I think the important thing to remember about zoning is that once the board approves a zoning application, it becomes a law. And it's very difficult to change laws. So we have to make sure that we've read every single nuance of a zoning application so that even after the Planning Commission does its job, and it does a great job, we still have the responsibility of reviewing that application and making a decision upon it. And I've said this on many, many occasions. The best decisions are those that are informed decisions, and these are the kind of documents to make sure that this county makes decisions based on good information.
You've made comments before that this stuff's not written in stone, that even after it gets to this point, you and the board are willing to listen to what the people have to say about it.
Oh, absolutely. And just like I said, it's a very fluid process. The Planning Commission, they do a great job of being the first to look at all the applications. But in between the application being reviewed by the Planning Commission, by the time it gets to the board, there are things that happen. So even if the Planning Commission recommends denial or approval of something might happen in the interim between the Planning Commission meeting and us that will change the nature of that zoning application. So when it gets to the board, it might have a change that might change the outcome of the zoning application.
Right, and to emphasize the importance to the people in this community, often these meetings go longer than the commission meetings.
Oh, absolutely, because first of all, every one of these, for the most part, except for the consent items, will have people there saying being in support or against it. And if we don't do it right, we'll be sued. So this is not a small responsibility. It's one of the more important ones in our board duties, and it's one we all take very seriously.
In the commission meeting just a few days ago, there was, again, a pretty lengthy list of items to go through. And one thing that people have been following closely is the park situation.
Right. Well, as you know, the board approved my request to finally fund the 2008 Parks Bond. And last month we approved a large-sized parcel in District 1. And I'm pleased to announce that now we approved 2 parcels in District 4 on Tuesday. And there's still several more out there that are going through due diligence. So we're slowly but surely using the taxpayers' money to ensure that we have green space in this county so that we're not overdeveloped.
Right, and it seems like it's been a long and slow process, but there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that people aren't aware of.
Yeah, I think it's so important that everyone understands that due diligence on contracts is what takes this process sometimes seem like a little bit longer. But it's the small stuff that if you don't get right, that'll come back to haunt you. So we always want to make sure that the properties that we're looking at and that we've contracted for, we want to go back and take the time to make sure there's nothing about that property that the titles are cleared, the land doesn't have any kind of contaminants. There's a multitude of issues that we want to make sure that when we finally buy this property, we own it. So if something happens if we find out after we own it, we got to pay to remediate it.
And the good bad news situation is we're doing all this in a pretty robust real estate market right now.
Yes, it's very challenging right now trying to find people to sell us property. So we can maintain some green space. But we're slowly but surely going through this process and acquiring property.
Another thing that got a lot of attention during the recent meeting was the fees. Mm-hmm. We have fees with places like parks and business that have been raised and adjusted, and there was a lot of behind-the-scenes work that went into those as well.
Yes. This fee schedule was a product of the Citizens Oversight Committee, I think, which came out in 2013, which recommended that we look at our fee structure in a lot of our parks and senior services and libraries. And a lot of those fees are constrained by state law. For instance, we can't charge people to go to libraries. Not that I think we'd want to do that, but when people say that I get emails suggesting all kinds of proposals to address this issue of the shortfall we have in our budget, there are some things we simply can't do that the law won't allow us to do. But the staff went back and did a very, very thorough study, and 6 weeks ago came forward with a proposed fee structure. And I think it addressed a lot of the issues that the Citizen Oversight Committee recommended. Some of the areas that were obviously the most visible were the issue involving the senior center, and I think we found a reasonable compromise there. Jessica Gill, who did a great job of running our senior centers, indicated that the proposed fees that that were being recommended would be enough for her to do her job, and that's what we took her advice, and those are the we adopted those fees for the senior center. I recognize that any kind of fee structure, whether it's the same or increased, is an issue for the voters and the taxpayers and the residents of this county. But the bottom line is, if in order to keep these facilities open, we have to make sure that we can maintain them properly and that we pay the people who come in and instruct at them. And if we didn't do this, then there would be no need for a senior center or a library or a park if we didn't have people to maintain them. So I think what we've done right now is a reasonable compromise.
And I think in some cases, I remember in the parks in particular, they were mentioning our fees were low or non-existent to the point where people were flooding in from out of the county to take advantage of this.
And we've addressed that by if you're an out-of-county resident, you can still use our facilities, but you pay a higher fee.
Right. And we're approaching the holidays, and that's the time when people think about giving. We've had a recent example at a toy drive, for instance, where Cobb County employees have stepped up to do just that.
Oh my gosh! I think you probably have the number of hours that our employees gave in this Christmas toy drive, but that just reflects the quality of the employees we have. When I give my State of the County address next year, one of the themes is going to be Cobb County, you expect the best, and my theme is you're getting the best. We are obviously in a very tight fiscal budget situation right now, but I feel it's incumbent upon me to do everything I possibly can to maintain the staff that we have here, properly compensate them, ensure they have benefits that are competitive. And in response, they show their loyalty and passion in this county by doing exactly what they've done for the toy drive. So my hat's off to all the county employees who've given many, many hours to that program.
That's right. Well, we have the holidays coming up. We're going to take next week off for Thanksgiving. In the meantime, if you want to leave this reading material for us here, we'll dive right in. But I appreciate you coming in and enjoy the holiday.
Okay, thank you. And I want to wish everybody a very, very happy Thanksgiving with their family and their friends.
Thank you.
Okay.